Nice. How are we doing time wise?
129.
129.
All right, Chair, it is officially 1:30. We're ready to start whenever you are.
Okay, well then let's go ahead and adjourn the subcommittee meeting of the Public Works. Let the records reflect that Councilmember Wheeler is with us as well as staff. And with that being said, I'm going to open the public comment section first. So anyone wishing to address the city council on items that are not on the subcommittee agenda may do so at this time. Michael, are there any hands in the audience out there?
Thank you, Chair. There are no members of the public attending the meeting at this time.
Okay, Brad, if you could just hold off for 1 second. I'm going to turn the gavel over to Councilmember Wheeler to conduct the rest of the meeting, but I'm going to ask him to take the standing item of pickleball courts and move it up because Brad would like to address the city council and we have quite a few items to go through.
Would you like to move that up to public comments? Or
Right under public comments.
okay,
And public comments are closed and Councilmember Wheeler has the gavel.
okay. So if we're gonna move public comments, Chair, up to just under, we need to move up pickleball. Now is when you'd like to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Chair and acting chair, if it's okay with you, what we can do is continue with the agenda and then move standing item N, which is the update on park improvements, to the first item under new business.
Okay, that's fine.
This is on the agenda. That we,
All right, we'll move into C then, communications. Is there any written, has anybody received any written communications they'd like to bring forward to the committee?
no additional written communications to share with the committee.
Thank you. Then D, approval of minutes for the last Public Works subcommittee meeting. Everybody in agreement with that? Any?
I'm fine with that.
Let the record reflect the minutes are approved.
All right, and then we will move into new business and let's go ahead and move item N in the standing items up to and let Mr. Horrell go ahead and speak on I don't know, and the Central Park enhancements, additional pickleball, bag toss, ladder golf, ping pong, bocce courts. So Brad, this is your chance right here.
All right. When do we get a staff report first on any updates, if I may, plus the chair?
Well, there's another item, which item is that on the impact fee balances?
That's item E.
E. So I was just gonna give an overview on what we spent and what we have left.
Okay.
I don't know, it's sort of related to pickleball or maybe Hector, you wanna?
Just the one thing I have an update on the update for item N. We did order those bag toss boxes. They should be here. We ordered them, but they should be here on 7/3/23. So we're hoping to get those in about 6 weeks. And those we ordered 2 sets of 2, so a total of 4. And those are to be installed at the 2nd Street City Park. And the plan is to order 2 additional more in the future for River Park if budget allows it. But City Park, it's the proposed installation of the new bag toss boxes are going to be where we had the horseshoe pit. So all the infrastructure is there. It's a matter of just unloading them off the truck and setting them and taking a few measurements. So we should be getting those, like I said, in a few weeks.
Are they putting it on the, are they putting it closest to the barbecues or down towards the parking lot on those two?
Probably close to, so like when you come in on the western entrance, there's a barbecue grills on the right hand
Yeah.
side, so about 30 feet from there.
The ones closest there?
Yes,
Gotcha.
yeah.
The only thing, Hector, on the Purple Park, you know, I'm not too excited about us putting them in Purple Park until we have a little community meeting with the residents.
Yes, and that's a different, I think that's
Okay.
the other item, but right now, the 4 that we order are gonna be installed at the Second Street City Park.
Because Second Street City Park is kind of isolated,
Right,
whereas Purple Park is kind of right next door to some of the people. And I would imagine that game's gonna get a little rowdy.
and the plan, and the plan is to install those 4 boxes there to still have a horseshoe pit, one horseshoe in case somebody wants.
What do you want to share with us, about the pickleball, or Brad, would you like to say a few words before we start kicking it around?
Sure, yeah. First of all, I want to congratulate this committee on the basketball courts, they're most beautiful. It's really nice. As I mentioned at the city council meeting the other night, our pickleball courts are busy a lot. Last Wednesday, we had 18 people show up. There's 8 people can play at a time, so that's a lot of people standing around waiting. We really could use a couple more courts. And my thought was we could put those at Ferber Park, where the big swing set is now, and relocate that swing set down where the first 2 pits are. And yesterday, we measured that area to see if another 60 by 60 foot pad would fit in there. And there is plenty of room. It would require the side moving swing set having to take out some of the sidewalk that's there. That's quite a bit. And it would be really nice to take out a couple of those trees. You know, Hector, that little grassy spot that's between the swing set and the play structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, those, it would come right under those trees. We've got a lot of tree maintenance we do, tree detritus on those courts that we take care of down there now. It'd be nice to, if we put more courts there to have it, so others would be there. The other option would be to put them at Vintage Meadows Park. There's plenty of room to, in the grassy area, to put more courts out there. The one plus that I see is keeping it Ferber is a lot of our enjoyment of pickleball is mixing up partners. And if all 4 courts are in one place, and we have 30 people or 40 people, it's easy to mix them up. If you're at 2 different parks, it's, you know, it's really separate entities. But a lot of our enjoyment with pickleball is changing partners every game.
Brad, of those people that showed up last week, were they all city or were they some from the county?
There was some from the county and there were some from Mendocino County. We had people coming from Ukiah and we had people coming from Yorkville.
I always like to, when we have county folks using a park like that, I know it doesn't work all the time. I usually like to let Supervisor Gore know that some of his folks are using it, can you chip in a couple bucks?
Yeah.
But then the counterpart to that is, you know, people use the county facilities too.
Yeah.
So I just needed to know that.
Yeah.
Hector, Kevin, you measured, and I'm not sure if you came up with the same situation and where we would put the swings and
Yeah.
how would that layout look?
I mean, I think one of the issues right away is putting the swing right on the street. And it's right on the street where I don't think would really be a great. Because the horseshoe pits are, you know,
30 feet probably.
close to the street.
Kevin, real quick, maybe, Mike, would you mind, and I can share a screen, but maybe can from your vantage point, you pull up Google Maps or if, can I do that from here and share it?
I'll pull it up really quick. Are we looking at Ferber Park?
Yes,
One second.
On Wednesday, you talk about there was like 18, you said 18 people there?
Yeah.
That's a standing event, or is it?
It is.
On Wednesday, you said?
Is that like normal, Brad? Is that,
Yeah.
or is that just what it
It's,
says?
Well, how about, and I understand where we're going right now too, but instead, another option maybe is, you know, where you come down where the existing pickleball court is now. And they've got that one table that sits there. And then there's a big area right there. I guess it would be on the south side of the swings. It's kind of a turnaround right there. Is that big enough to put a pickleball court in there? And then the pickleball courts would be kitty corner from each other. They'd be almost adjacent to each other. And it would just be moving from where you're saying, Brad, in where the swings are, south by maybe 60 feet. Cause I walked it this morning and looked down there and there's plenty of room in there. See right there, just south of the swings right there,
Yeah, actually,
right in there.
Right here.
Yeah, right in there. Because that's kind of an underutilized, it's more of a turnaround, you know, and there's one table, one garbage can, and it's kind of dead space. And then that takes up, then you have more options with the swings. Cause like Kevin's saying, you put the swings up where the horseshoe pits are, if kids are gonna jump off swings, like they're going to, they're landing on a hill or on a sidewalk. You know, so there's another option.
Would Fish and Game have to come into that?
It's within,
where was this one?
Right there.
Space right here.
I doubt that Fish and Wildlife, I mean, we want to check if we're within 50 feet of the, I guess that's Porterfield Creek that runs through.
Yeah.
You know, I think this for us, we just need to
Well-
evaluate the layout and see,
Kind of drops off right there where the arrow is along the tree line.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of drops down,
right,
so we would have to see if we have enough room there.
but it's virtually flat, so when it comes to dirt work and all of that, I mean, you know.
Well, I have to, agree with Brad that, if we're gonna have any type of a presence in the pickleball community countywide, it sure would be nice to have a couple of courts next to one another, as opposed to having to drive all the way around town to play your turn. And I'm not so sure, well, Vintage Meadows may be a spot, but I prefer us to exhaust every option we have at first. Is my personal opinion. So,
Yeah, then if it comes into 18 people, you know, they're not driving across town to jump in on a game.
Right.
You might still have two people waiting, but hey, that's better than,
right,
you know.
Yeah.
well, could we check out that other location? And just, I don't know if how many swings were we planning on moving? I mean, that's a pretty big swing structure. I think we have 4 there now, 4 swings.
4 or 6.
Is it?
At River Park?
Yeah,
So at River Park, we have 4 swings.
4. If we cut that down to 2, I'm not so sure how often they're used, but.
That's the thing, they're used almost
They
daily.
use a lot.
Swings.
Those swings are used a lot, and I think what I can do, I can check out that possible, the other location. I know it drops off right there, so it might have to be some backfilling and some, maybe
Mhm.
some type of retaining wall along that tree line there.
So what if you used 2 swing sets instead of 1, and put them perpendicular to the street? The swings that are down there now, there's 2 for toddlers, and there's 2 for bigger kids.
Yeah.
So you could do 2 different swing sets, and you have 1 for toddlers and 1 for the other, and have it perpendicular to the street.
Well, what I'd like to do is just ask staff to go down there and think outside the box, that you normally do, but. And just see if there's any option that could be explored a little further. And we'll see what we can do there. But Kevin, you were gonna review money.
Yeah, it's a different item.
But would it affect the pickleball course?
Well,
Is that what the
I
money?
mean, we had a long-term plan to try to upgrade the play equipment there,
Right,
which is pretty expensive, but we think that would be really nice for the neighborhood because there's a lot of little kids there. But we didn't really come to a conclusion on whether we're gonna do that or not. So that would eat into what we have. But I mean, I can, if you want to move that item, I can just run through this real quick report.
well, yeah, if you could do that, but also I'm thinking if we're gonna spend the money to upgrade that equipment, now's the time to reconfigure it in a different
Yeah.
location.
No, that makes sense.
As opposed to letting them put it in and then move it. So maybe we can get those synced somehow.
And we're kind of jumping ahead because the
Right.
council, I mean, the direction that we received from the subcommittee was do community outreach with the neighbors.
Right.
But the next step, that's what we were planning to do was even a public forum, but also a community survey, just to garner input. I know our park superintendent has received gets a lot of feedback from the community, and we think a survey and direct forum would be a good way to really capture that. So that it reflect, whatever we do, it's informed based on some of the survey feedback. Because we know the residents obviously were close. That was a consideration for the pickleball court. It was just such an ideal space for us. Because it was a volleyball court previously, and it just was so ideal. So when we start moving things closer, we just want to be cognizant of the neighbors.
Absolutely, sure.
Take their input. So, but we could certainly evaluate options in terms of the layout there. I think, I know this doesn't always meet with everybody's perspectives, but we do want to, because if it continues growing sport, also seek additional opportunities. Not to say that should take the place of what we're doing here with this, but even continue to work with the new superintendent to help identify options there, just again, to continue to build our recreational assets and amenities in the city for all populations. And so that's an aside, but just wanted to offer that.
Okay, and could we have that recap at the next subcommittee meeting?
Oh, our field inspection or?
About the pickleball courts and future sites at Furman maybe.
Yeah, different layouts. Now, the community forum, that's almost, and that's the thing with a lot of times up there in the cottages, you have a lot of folks that love to come up and Hector and myself, we know this, they're gonna come up and they're gonna let us know what needs to go on, but in turn, you don't have anything official. We need emails, we need opinions, it's a lot of kicking back and forth, so that forum, I think, is crucial.
There's another thing we need, money.
Agreed.
So
Exactly.
I'm, my only hesitation on the community forum is how much money do we have and how low do we want to take these funds?
Right.
We've been spending a lot of money on park stuff, over $1 million in the last year between all of those, and I can just, do you want to move to this item maybe, or?
What does the survey cost?
Well, it's not that the survey is expensive or the community, I just don't want to set expectations in the
Right.
neighborhood that what we can't actually do.
Well, and that's the other side of that coin. As soon as you have that, then automatically it's in people's mind that that's happening.
Unless we're real clear on how much we want to spend and where and how far that will go.
Right.
And maybe present options based on the amount that we have.
One of the biggest, requests that I get on my email and my phone is the upgrading of the playground equipment, because it's the oldest playground equipment that we own. And it's very difficult to, like we mentioned it, we talked in the past, it's very difficult to get parts now for those play equipment. And so we need to move quickly and see if we can replace that. Because otherwise, last time one of the parts broke in the playground structure, it took about 5 months to get it, because we couldn't track it down, because we couldn't find it. Because the company that originally built the playground structure is no longer here.
And I don't have a problem with us, replacing that equipment ahead of a pickleball court. I just want to make sure that we're not going to have to dig it up and move it somewhere else.
Absolutely.
So
That's why a master plan.
Like a master,
Yeah,
exactly.
And it might not be until next year that we could get it in, but it's coming.
Right.
We've got some impact fees coming, I'm sure, out of some new developments that maybe we could get a couple of bucks and do it with. Right. Or there might be a grant out there, Brad. I don't know if there's grants out there for pickleball court, but through ARP or, huh?
Not much.
Not much.
If you're gonna say pickleball association, maybe about
3 years to move.
Okay.
we did those tennis courts, we got
Okay.
about 50,000, I think, from USDA, but pickleball's not that way yet.
Okay.
Well, let's move to go over and grab Kevin to do the EE update for impact fees.
Okay. Sounds good, thank you. So the total for the restroom was about $340. Basketball courts were 522, but we got 190 state grants on that one. The dog park is budgeted at 245. And the pickleball was about 120, and we have two pots of money. We have the park and rec impact fees. All of this comes from development. And the other one's called the Quimby Act fees. The Quimby Act fees are a little more restrictive in what we can use those for. They're really supposed to benefit the subdivision that paid for them, so something within a reasonable geographic area, or something unique in the city that is assumed that everyone in that subdivision will use, like a dog park or a restroom. So the balance in the Quimby right now is 574, and the park and rec is 330. Now that assumes we've got the 190 back from the state for the basketball court, so that's already accounted for in there. We're likely going to get that money, so, but
we don't have it now.
we don't have it now, and we don't know the timing of it, so you should really subtract, 189 from the 330.
To get about 240.
About 240 in the Parks and Rec, and then about 474 in the Quimby. So the Quimby, again, to use that, we have to make findings at the council that what we're using that money for does reflect the needs of the entire city. Or we build a park near the subdivision who paid all those fees. So.
It's just important note to make that part of that fund balance was contributed by the Bumgarner development. There is plans for them to dedicate parkland. With their payment of fees, there would be no obligation to do park improvements because they paid the fees.
Right.
So just something to be cognizant of is if we spend down the remaining fees, at some point we may inherit park property for which we have no funding to do improvements.
So, Bob, is there gonna be a park in Baumgartner?
Yeah,
Is there?
It's a 1.4 acre up against the hill that he's already shown on the map. It's dedicated to the city for that park.
Yeah, he's required to dedicate it.
Another item that, of course, looking at it as a maintenance perspective, for me and my staff, the new pickleball court, even though the new basketball court, you guys are probably gonna know where I'm going with this. The new basketball court, the new dog park, the new restroom, the new Soda Springs Ranch. Eventually we need to look into, acquire additional staff that maintain this infrastructure, whether it's part-time staff for the summer, the busy months, or another full-time staff, because we don't, we're gonna be spending all week just doing maintenance and not being able to do other responsibilities, and we're gonna keep falling behind. Just for thought, just throwing it out there.
Well, we've never had a treasure chest full of money to get things done, and we always seem to manage to get them done. But Kevin, one of the things when we had the presentation from the playground equipment company, I believe it was last meeting, I had asked them to see if there was any grant money out there. And I'm not sure if they ever got back to us on that, or they thought I was joking, but no, I'm not sure it's out there.
We got the nice grant for the basketball, and I don't know if that one's gonna come around again, but that one seems like a really good fit for this type of use, but as of right now, the state may redo that one, but I'm not sure. There's no real indication that's gonna happen.
DJ. So where are we gonna leave this?
Well, hold on, I got one more thing,
Yeah.
it's kind of, sorry about that.
I forgot you were running.
To capitalize kind of what Hector was saying, and I know, it's tough when these are all nice, the city's got some cool stuff now, pickleball, basketball, but in turn, it ramps up a lot of kind of warranted, unwarranted complaints of, hey, you guys aren't getting to this, but basketball, and that's starting to get hot and heavy now, I'm hearing it a lot, and there's not enough people. What I
The
mean?
skate park is the one that comes up a lot.
Well, skate park or when it comes to regular maintenance stuff, you know what I mean? And and people are like, hey, what's going on? Well, we've got a basketball court and we've got this, so they don't know, they're happy about one thing, they're not happy about the other, so.
The use of of these funds is really to enhance and staff parks, so you can't use it for maintenance or staff.
Exactly, but it might be something to consider, like I said, in the future, is hey, let's get a couple more, like you said, some seasonals, something.
One of the things I'd like to see us do is get an opinion from city attorney on whether we can farm out some of the work for our lighting and landscape district. Hire a landscape company to come in and handle some of the little ones like Brookwood and
Brookside, Clark.
Brookside and Clark, and that's passed along to the ratepayers there. Well, Clark isn't on the lighting and the landscape, that's us.
Right.
You know, I'd just like to see if we can farm some of that out. I know at one time, Hector, we had farmed out the mowing of the grass in some of our parks.
Yeah, well, right now we have a contract with Garden Works to mow Vintage Meadows Park. So right now they've been mowing it for a few years now, and it's been very successful. You know, as a park superintendent, you know, and as a Cloverdale, and you know, and everybody knows me here, my parks is my pride.
I know.
And when we start getting all these projects, I know that it's great, the basketball court's great, I was so happy on Saturday. We gave out 125 basketballs to kids, and some of the families that showed up to get a basketball really couldn't afford a basketball. So I was happy to give out basketballs, and you know, and so, you know, we getting those projects developed, which is great. It's a great asset for Parks and Recs, for our city, for our folks here. You know, there's only 3 of us, and so it's difficult, it's challenging, a lot of times. Yeah, these projects.
Well, I would think, Hector, that regardless if we farm them out or not, you would still make sure that they're done right.
Absolutely.
Or definitely let them know.
Yeah.
They're not meeting your expectations.
Right.
The vice mayor, chair, acting chair might suggest we consider this as a future agenda item when staff's ready to kind of do an evaluation of our, you know, park and L&L maintenance costs and bring that back with some different options. I know that's something that we've talked about, looking at contracting out for certain services. I know we do a lot of mowing in cottages. That might be something that we can contract for, say, mowing services with a vendor or contractor, and see how that might free up staff time to do other maintenance activities. But so we don't deviate too far from the agenda, why don't we bring that back?
Yeah,
Actually,
future agenda that.
really look at park maintenance costs, because some of the with all the new facilities this year, and some that are still in process, we're still gonna, you know, get a feel for what are our maintenance requirements in terms of staff time. You know, that true from the plaza, restrooms, pickleball, to now the basketball courts. We're gonna be bringing on hopefully the dog park. So all those things, we got to get kind of a good history in terms of weekly time spent and how much hours, and how are we gonna manage that with our existing staff.
Especially with the new open space district there. When's that coming on board?
So the open space acquisition was, I didn't see the board meeting, the board supervisor took that up today. There was a consent item to approve final acquisition of what was referred to as Lighter Ranch or Stowe Springs property. I'll follow up after this meeting to ascertain if that was approved. I think it would have hurt if it wasn't, but assuming it gets approved by the board or got approved, final recordation of the deed was supposed to occur by no later than June 30th. It very well could be in our hands in the next month.
Just to follow up on the community meeting at Berber, I mean, I would recommend we at least wait till we get reimbursement from the basketball from the state, because we're getting down to, and I just don't want people to have expectations that we have wanting to,
So you think maybe not in the survey?
well, no, I think we,
Hold up.
at least wait till we get our state reimbursement or. I don't know.
That's fine, Zach.
I agree with that totally. I know where you're going with it, like I said, a lot of, and it's not just over there, it's everybody, when they see you start kind of putting the project together, then in their mind it's happening.
I definitely want to do it. I think it's a great
Pump the
idea.
brakes. Yeah, I
It's
agree.
just, I don't want people to think we have endless money.
Expectations.
But I don't want to see that interfere with staff coming back next month with a potential pickleball court right there.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we're gonna move into, now we'll get to item A. In new business and so a discussion establishing no parking on Franklin Street.
Councilmember Wheeler, we received a request to evaluate restricting parking on Franklin Street. Our city engineer Vanessa Apodaca did an analysis. And I thought, Vanessa, if you could provide a report out to the subcommittee on your findings.
I apologize, you guys caught me multitasking. Which item are we on?
We are on, Vanessa, we're on, under new business, we're actually on item A.
No parking on
No
Franklin.
parking on Franklin.
So, the road at this section is somewhat narrow. I think what happens, so there's currently no parking on one side and parking is allowed on the other side. There's not really any justification that I can see to establish additional no parking. And so really, I mean, it's kind of at your preference. We could go in there and piece it out somewhere close to an intersection, close to certain driveways. But really, I think, you know, the traveling public for the most part would have to navigate around parked cars on one side. And I'm not aware, it's pretty flat out there. I'm not aware of any safety issues. And I really hate to take away on-street parking where it's not really justified. And so I don't see an issue out there, but I see where people could get annoyed, where it could be a little bit of a delay to have to wait for oncoming traffic to go around a parked car.
Well, Vanessa, I brought this item to the subcommittee based on a concern that I had from a resident who lives back in Vintage Meadows, that every time he comes up there, if there's a big truck that one of the fellows has that lives right next to that intersection, when he decides to park on the street, he's got one of those supersized trucks. And it's really kind of hairy to go around that truck. So I don't know how we address that concern of a truck, an oversized truck parking in the street. So that's why this item's on the table. But from what you're saying, going south on Franklin, that's where the no parking is, right?
Correct.
Is there any chance that we can do a no parking sign from here to intersection and place that down a little further?
You know, the signs get a little bit tricky. I would go more along the lines of doing red curbs. You know, the sidewalk width and adding a new sign, you know, whether there's clearance or not to get that sign in there. And I think it's easier installation to do a red curb for the city crews. And so if we are going to establish some extra no parking out there, I would do it via red curb.
Yes. Well, staff, what are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you're gonna bring that up on maps or whatever, but take a look at it, but
Parking strip right here.
and it doesn't have to go the whole way down.
Yeah, I think there's, Chair, I think there's some opportunities for some additional red curb painting. For instance, as if you're heading northbound on Franklin towards Healdsburg Avenue, the southbound lane is painted red at the corner, but the northbound lane is not. And then there's utility poles there. So, you know, maybe we can do a kind of more strategic evaluation and paint sections of red curb at various, and then we have various driveways that, you know, ideally there was some red paint maybe on either side of those driveway exits and entrances so that you know, folks can be able to either enter or exit safely. There is farther down, there is a no parking signs. Again, they're not there. There's a lot of the really nice oak trees there, so I'm not sure how you know, how visible those are. It may be something you look at. If there's no parking between the signs, we look at go ahead and painting those curves red.
Okay.
So my recommendation is we do I think the city engineer analyzed, you know, whether we should restrict parking, and her finding was that it may impact the neighborhood if we entirely restricted all parking along Franklin. But what might be appropriate again is to have us do evaluation and look at it more carefully in terms of identifying red paint areas.
Well, I'd like to see us do that, and it's funny how interpretations are different. I heard the city engineer say, we could or we couldn't, it's up to you. So, but I agree with you. I think if we expanded the red striping a little bit, it'd probably solve that problem. Because it's not a regular car, it's just those big trucks.
And do you happen to know where in particular this truck is parking?
Yeah, what intersection is that?
Hillsburg Avenue.
Hillsbury Avenue and Franklin?
Yeah, down south a little bit. There's another house after Jim DiMartini's, and you'll see sometimes he has them up on his lawn, sometimes he has them in
Being north of Martinez.
no, yeah, no, south.
Well, the thing is, if he's parking on the corner and we do that, all that red stuff there, and then the guy's like, all right, I can't park here. And he goes around the corner on Hillsburg, are we gonna start striping Hillsburg Avenue too?
Well, Hillsburg, I think, is the widest street.
Well, it is, but still, I mean, a lot of these, the only thing, a lot of these streets are First Street. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? You go there between 5 and 7 in the morning, you're going around the corners because everybody's at the donut shop, you know what I mean? So. I
Well-
agree, maybe some red striping, but I just see him moving around the corner and this is kind of, we're chasing our tail here. Trying to find out where this guy can park his truck or.
That corner right there is where I see that truck parked.
I know.
Right there at that corner.
Right there.
Yeah,
Right there, the
So
sun.
that's the Martinez.
Is there a truck
Wait,
in there?
there, and then so
What's
they.
that?
Is there a truck there?
Yeah, I see a truck parked right there in that corner.
Yeah.
Oh, that's our park truck. What the heck?
That's from 2008.
Right there, that's where you park.
In that section there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
That's the Martinez.
Are you talking here like in front of the mailbox?
Yeah, right there,
Yeah.
yep, that's where that big truck that's on top of the trailer parks right there.
So,
got a fence in there now, right?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah,
And a house, there's a house there in that empty lot.
So,
and there was recently an encroachment permit pulled. I believe that this home was the applicant to widen this driveway. And so at this point, they've widened their driveway apron a little bit. I think this has been completed. I would have no issue at all with striping from here to the corner with a red curb.
Is that Jim DiMartini's house?
yeah.
Well, I'm talking about the one before it is where they do the parking. The one down towards the Owl Cafe.
So
That empty lot right there.
There's a house now.
There's a house there now, yeah.
Maybe doable.
Perhaps.
Am I going the wrong way or is this?
I know that,
That's it.
there's still a cut curb, and so you're talking on either side of that cut curb.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen it, but
Yeah.
Do other people park there?
I think that guy was a prevalent, so he kind of moves it up and down. But
well, we could look at it for red striping. I think that would go a long way.
Curious to talk to the resident and see if that truck actually even belongs to the people who live there. I have a suspicion that it does not.
Well,
It may be somebody who live in apartments or whatever that's like, hey, this is my place, then walk across the street, you know, because it's.
Yeah.
Easy to get in and out of there. Red striping, yeah, I think we should pursue that, go down and like Vanessa said, it I mean, it'll deter them from putting it on that corner, at least when you start seeing red, hopefully. You know?
I don't think Jimmy's have any problem with the red curve in front of his house.
No, he doesn't park in the street.
He's got plenty of park on that property.
Okay,
Anything else on that item?
It would be. This is the house you're talking about right here.
Yeah.
So when they redid this house, that cut curve goes all the way almost to the property line, so there's only. Probably 10 to 15 feet
Yeah.
on that side of the house.
And then she's talking, go from maybe the pole right here up to.
Well, this has changed now because he had an permit, so for this fence ends,
You know, it's where it's.
that's all his driveway now. And so it would just be this section and then.
That would help them. I'll tell you what, that's the thing I was worried about when you all up right there.
Right.
So if you did from that,
If we did that corner, would be, I don't think we're helping anything going way down here.
Guys, for the interest of the public record, is there a way that we can share a map and kind of express what you're discussing?
Yeah, go to Google Maps. We'll
Vanessa, are you able to pull that back up?
I am, here we go.
Thank you. Sorry, guys, we're just not a,
Yeah, so the house on the corner,
House 4 and 2,
that your mouse is right on top of it right there. So that house doesn't, it doesn't look like that. The driveway, you see the telephone pole up towards no, down right there.
Yeah,
So the driveway is about from the telephone pole almost to the next telephone pole now. So that section is kind of all driveway with the new permit, so we would red curve from the telephone pole north.
that would take out, in theory, take out that parking spot, which is the most crucial one for making that corner.
And then you can see down the house. The 410 right there, 410 Franklin, the next house to the south. You see his driveway, if you look at it, that cut curve almost goes all the way to that property line.
Just a little section there.
Yeah, he's got a big old paved piece in there. I don't think they have updated pictures.
I just wonder if that problem is
Yes,
resolved.
it doesn't exist. He widened it, so there's just, see that little section?
Mhm.
16 feet or something.
Yeah, so it's just this one section that exists.
Well, if we could hit a little bit of red paint there, I think it would go a long way. He's probably parking his cars off the street now. He's widening in that driveway.
Well, DeMartini's is the one who widened his driveway.
Oh. Okay. Well. How do we want to leave this?
Let's say we go up and we do the red, like you were talking, Derek, from the new widened driveway on the north side to where it turns to Healdsburg and do that corner red. And I mean, then you're gonna see, you'll have a gauge then to see if that's where the truck is and that's where it's impeding people's vision right there. If they do that red and he doesn't park there, then problem solved. And then we can move down. If we need to do more red in the future, we can bring it up again. But I think that corner is.
And Derek, that's after you confer with David and make sure it's okay.
Okay. All right. SB1 funding, new business item B.
Vanessa, do you want to start on this one?
Yes, okay, so annually, we have city council adopt a resolution that establishes the queue, if you will, of future funded projects. And so just to rewind a little bit, recently we've constructed 4th Street under these funds. And so Clark Avenue, a portion of Clark Avenue from South to Blair, was already in the queue. And so that's moving forward as the next project. And so now I'm looking for feedback on what we want the next project. Once we finish with this portion of Clark Street, what do we want the next project to be for these funds? And I know we've tossed around a few ideas, possibly Antonio Street. I'm looking pretty hard at a portion of Franklin Street because that's very well used by a lot of people in the city. But really just looking for subcommittee feedback. What is the interest level? And if you guys have any idea on which streets or what street or which streets we add to this queue. We would be looking, just for timeline purposes, we have to submit the adopted resolution by the end of the fiscal year. And so whatever recommendation we get here today, I would move forward with a city council resolution in the pretty near city council meetings.
Well, if I had my vote and I was the sole decider, I would probably pick it up from 4th Street on Jefferson down to School Street. That's a busy road. Yet it's a short enough section, I think we could accomplish with some SBA money that we'll be giving, I think.
North Washington there,
I'm sorry?
Washington, is that what you're saying?
No, Jefferson, from 4th Street on down to School Street, where it turns into Porter Fremont. Well, actually, Porter Fremont.
So just for talking purposes, so I looked at the recent pavement management budget options report. You guys have seen this a couple of times now. And so looking up that portion of Jefferson, that was also on my radar, that is looking at a preliminary cost of, wait for it, $753,000 to reconstruct from School to 4th Street.
Yeah, but aren't we doing it with layovers now? So would it be cheaper? Or we're gonna dig up the whole street?
This would be a reconstruction. This segment is recommended as a reconstruction.
But to your point, Vice Mayor, that section, Vanessa, do you have the PCI handy?
The pavement condition index for that segment, I want to say it was either 0 or 3.
So what that means is that's a really,
That's one of the
really
worst ones.
low pavement condition. So if we were to ultimately make that improvement, that is gonna be something that's gonna bolster our overall PCI score, because that particular section is so low. Now, the kind of pro and con here is it gets back to the discussion about utilizing, our limited amount of funding for road improvements. To what extent do we reconstruct this section at a relatively higher cost versus using the same amount of funds to preserve existing higher ranked pavement elsewhere? Clearly, this section of pavement is in poor condition and is in need of reconstruction, no question. That's just something for us to think about and consider, because we could do a lot of slurry seals with the same amount. And I'm not suggesting that we do that. I'm just throwing that out there. So that's kind of a framework under which to.
More bang for our buck.
Right,
Yeah.
we preserve what we have that's in decent condition versus tackle a larger, more expensive reconstruction project. Clearly, this is an older section of town. It's highly utilized. It's in need of improvement. It's used a lot by
And it's
Residents.
at the top of the list for complaints also.
right.
So, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I know Antonio was in poor shape, but when I look at the usage, definitely more people use that Jefferson section as opposed to Antonio. So from a use standpoint, we get a bigger bang buck on Jefferson, which is something we have to look at too, I think.
Agreed. I agree with that. And I apologize, I misspoke. The PCI for that section of Jefferson is 22, but it is 0 years in remaining life.
Yeah, it's still really low.
It is still really low. And it's an urban arterial, so that's important.
Right.
so if that gets 100% fixed, we get 700 grand and it's fixed as the PCI go up overall.
It would, our overall city PCI would pop up incrementally. I mean, but how do you, you got to chip away at that. You've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I do think that would be a solid start.
Now, would some of that cost come out of the water and sewer funds?
Well, not so much the street improvement itself,
No.
but what the staff has been doing, and this is a good example, on Clark Street that Vanessa and Derek are working on is identifying since we want to go in and reconstruct that entire street section, what work should we do subsurface to improve both our sanitary sewer facilities and water facilities? So to the extent that we are making upgrades or improvements to those, there's a cost allocation that we can make. So it does help. It can help with at least a portion, a fair share of the cost of the pavement, but it doesn't necessarily pick up the the majority is still going to be street related fees.
Well, I wasn't sure if that money actually was included in replacing the pipes and all, but apparently it's not, so that's okay.
But we're trying to be strategic. If we're gonna go in and replace and reconstruct the pavement, we don't want to have to come back and replace the water lines.
Voice.
But that's an area where we probably, in our rate study, we didn't really look at as part of our long-term operation and maintenance costs. When there are water leaks and water repairs, which are necessary to fix the road, it's been the practice to cover those street costs, the street repair costs with general fund. And in reality, they should be, because if the street's damaged because of a water leak, the enterprise, and in my opinion, should pick up the cost. And we just haven't factored in the cost of doing street repairs for water leaks. And so it's something for us to be cognizant of in terms of our rate study, is when those leaks do occur. Unfortunately, because we have an aging system, we're stuck. I mean, over the last 3 years, we've had a significant number of water leaks, and we've seen that with Allen Avenue, which, I mean, that street section was already in fairly significant disrepair, but it just adds to the cost of repairing that from our general fund if we don't have that money budgeted in our enterprise.
I think that Jefferson, the area we're talking about, I mean, if we have to have a decision in or whatever in order to get this application ready to roll and be in on that, I mean, that's my vote also right there. I think that's where we should go with this, to start looking at that section of Jefferson there up to school.
And that'll cover the intersection of Jefferson and Hale as well, which is a nightmare.
And so that is the segment identified as having, like I said, a pavement condition index of 22, School Street to 4th Street, for a cost of $753K estimated just to reconstruct the road.
Yeah.
I just want to add, for talking purposes, this segment from School Street, they give it by address, but it's this address here. What is that? 535 Jefferson Street. This segment is also noted as highly distressed. That is a PCI of 3, of the pavement condition index of 3. And that's another estimated $590,000. I'm just throwing that out there. It is a contiguous segment, but I would be fully supportive of either one of these going in the queue.
Well, I think, and Vanessa, correct me if I'm wrong, but council can add multiple projects to the list. It's just they're going to sit on the list, and not, they're unlikely to be funded until some point in the future. So we could identify, for example, North Street to School North as kind of project number 2. It's just, we have to finish Clark, then we'll tackle, we'll save up enough FB1 funds to tackle Jefferson to school, and then the north.
Yeah, that would definitely be a multi-year savings.
Oh, yeah.
Of SB1 funds.
Okay, so it sounds like I might be putting both of these segments in the list.
Yeah, as long as we're not locked into either one of them.
Yep.
Perfect.
That second section, Vanessa, was, they called out School Street to Champlain or School to North.
They called it School Street to this 535.
The address.
And then there's another segment that goes from 535 to Portofino. But that one has a little bit of useful life left.
Yeah, feet south of School Street.
Champlain would be good.
Yeah, let's see. Champlain.
That's right there at the ballpark.
I see. Okay, perfect.
So Jefferson, the school, and then school to Champlain.
Yeah,
Not quite the north.
Yeah, not
Well,
quite to north, the 535.
I would go School to North. I mean, that's not, because this is really bad right in here.
Yeah.
Between Champlain and North.
Mhm.
So we'll, noted, you'll see a resolution. It's our annual resolution for SB1 funding. It will continue to include Clark Street. But then it'll also identify, these two segments, Jefferson to school and school to north.
Any other comments on that? Moving on, all right, new business C, I'd like to move that to a future agenda, item C, any
Which,
comments? That would be operator and training positions. Move that to a future agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Then item D, pedestrian crossing signs, Lake Street and South Main.
Okay, this is a item that is in response to feedback that we received from a community member about the existing crossing. Well, it's not really a crossing now. There's actually a under street culvert that serves most of downtown that is used as a pedestrian crossing. And our city engineer and public works director collaborated on a possible solution. So I'll turn it over to Derek to kind of talk through that idea.
Yeah, it was brought up to our attention that we did have a crossing situation there. Mid-street, mid-block, I would say crosswalks, kind of not something that is normally done. And so we came up with the solution of a kind of a lit pedestrian sign for this area where you could press the button and the light flashes. And then, obviously putting the amenities, fixing the transitions and all that, but not striping it, just putting the pedestrian present signs in this area.
How much does it cost for one of those little setups like you see in Hillsburg down there on the main boulevard, when you hit the sign and it's got 3 or 4 little LEDs in the ground, and as soon as you hit the button,
A lot.
ding, ding, ding. You know what I mean? Yeah, they look good for me every time down there. Just saying. Yeah,
Hey, Mike, can you move forward
I mean, I don't know how much
to
they cost.
page 2 on this one?
They're good though.
Yeah.
So here's a mock-up showing, so this particular corner was identified to be improved. What's tough to see there is that section, the reason it's in that condition is because there's a culvert literally right underneath it, so it makes it very difficult to construct to city standards, because you got top of a culvert sitting right below the surface. I think the recommendation from our public works director is to smooth that surface. They're not put in a formal crosswalk because there are other elements. There is a crosswalk located to the west, so a pedestrian can safely cross in that crosswalk. But to provide what it's not there now is that pedestrian indicator, so that it at least will notify passing motorists that someone has triggered that light for them to walk on. If you go down a little bit, scroll down, Mike, if you can.
So when you push the button, it triggers that top light.
Yeah,
Right.
Oh, that's the exact same, those little things.
And
Yeah,
just like
I'm down with you.
on the other side
Gotcha.
there, you can see the road is bowed up there. And I think pedestrians have taken that as though that was intended for a pedestrian crossing. And really what that is, again, is the top of the culvert that drains just to the right of the picture.
Yeah.
Again, it's not really, it was never intended for that, but it, because it connects to the other corner, you can certainly see why folks have used it. But this would at least address and try to make it a more safer place for crossing.
Yeah, and we have another place on Cloverdale Boulevard with these kind of same type of lights.
We're bright today.
Yeah.
We're good.
With they're right from the school.
Is that the ones we just put in?
Is that
No.
But these are not, these are gonna be triggered with a button that's
Yes.
supposed to 24/7.
Yeah, if a pedestrian is present, they press the button, it lets the motorist know that
Put
there's.
it in the next page. It's,
Yeah, these are just, I mean, in a perfect world, we would be, affording these, the top notch ones, but I just kind of threw this in there, kind of to show. The subcommittee what's available, wireless connectivity between the two signs, so you press one, they both flash, so you get representation going on both sides of the street.
And how do you propose shrinking the height of that storm drain? Of the culvert?
Then we're gonna leave that height, we're just gonna smooth the transition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll grind it a little bit and then we'll smooth the transition.
it is to try to make it as compliant as possible.
And then obviously put concrete in more of a triangle shape so that pedestrians can walk directly up to the pole. Where its location is.
When we're gonna start that? I mean, is that something that?
I propose we move forward with it. That's up to you. That's a good idea. I mean, that's a perfect setup for right there. Kind of, I didn't realize that when you hit the button, it lights up. But I mean, as long as you catch somebody's attention, that's kind of the exact same, like Mr. Cox over here was saying, lower maintenance, versus the ones in Hillsburg that are in the street that are gonna be destroyed. That's perfect. I like that idea.
You have one of those sitting in the street down at Phillipsburg and Cloverdale Boulevard.
That's a little history to the ones in the street. At the Cloverdale Boulevard and Hillsburg Avenue, we had a deaf crossing there. So we put in those in the street,
Right,
and all we were doing was going and digging them up and replacing them all the time.
makes sense. Yeah.
So they got rid of them and put up these on it.
And another.
Well, they're tried and true then,
Yep.
So I'm hearing council say that you would.
Go forward with it. I like it. We already got through E. And then we're down to item F in the agenda right now for, looks like standing items and updates, so we can move through the updates.
Okay, well, we talked about the Ferber Park Playground a little bit with our discussion of doing the survey work, and we're gonna, wait to get a firm picture on our financial standing and our impact fee, since that's largely where we're financing a lot of our projects. Of course, these kinds of projects can also be discussed when we discuss as part of our budget process. So we'll talk further about that once we make more progress on doing the community outreach piece and finalizing our financial picture.
And they were gonna run out and do different measurements on those other spots.
Right, we'll bring that back next meeting. Park security cameras, I recall, Park Superintendent, we ordered those.
Well, there's a, you and I discussed earlier today, I think what we need to do is we received quotes.
Okay.
And it's about $30,000 for both, for Ferber Park and Clark Park. We do have $7,000 in the budget. So what Kevin and I were proposing is to do a budget amendment for the additional $23,000 to purchase those.
And if I recall, we had budgeted cameras in last year's budget,
But
but we had some urgent security measures at Ferber Park. Where we had the break-ins, and we utilized the funds for cameras to fix the rolling doors in and do some other security lights.
security lights, security blinds, so that's.
Doesn't Clark have cameras already, a big camera system down there?
they've been.
There was historically some game cameras.
I thought we had an installed one up there on Clark.
There is one and it's been broken for a while. We've tried to replace parts for it, but we can't do it now. But yeah, like David mentioned, we had the funding originally to purchase those cameras. But due to all the, frequent vandalism at River Park, we utilize the funds for security blinds and security lights, which have been working out great. Ever since we got the lights and security blinds, knock on wood, we haven't had a single incident. We just need to get a budget amendment to get that funding back so we can move forward with the cameras.
So Hector, if I'm not mistaken, these cameras, we're purchasing them as opposed to leasing them. I think we're gonna lease them so that they'd be constantly at the expense of the installers to repair.
So there was two programs. One of the programs was to lease them for just a tryout process for 2 months or 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
Just to see if we like them. And it's but no, we would purchase the cameras and once we move forward with the project, and then we would purchase an additional monitor for the police department so they can monitor the cameras, as well as an app for like my phone or my CD phone or my CD iPad to, send any notifications or any alerts.
Does that come with any maintenance in case they throw a rock at them or?
Yeah, they come with maintenance, so there's like a security box that goes around it for kids don't break the lens. One of the interesting features, one of the nice features on this camera is that it's got a security alert. So anytime somebody goes on that security, there's a certain amount of feet you can go from the camera, crossing point, it'll send an alert to your phone or the PD that somebody's out there, and you can set it up for certain times. So like at night. Yeah, so if somebody at night gets across that crossing point, it'll send the PD, they're not gonna like it, they're gonna send them a notification. Yeah.
2 a.m.
And they're very smart. I mean, if, let's say somebody saw somebody with a black hoodie trying to, near the facility and they were breaking, then you can go back and type in black hoodie. And everybody that walked by with black hoodie will show up there. So they're pretty high tech. So the only issue we had there was that they required internet access, so we're gonna buy this chip, so to address that. It's a monthly thing, but
And these are the ones we're getting.
yes, okay. And on all these meetings, Lieutenant Parker was involved in all the meetings, and so he's aware of it. He liked the idea.
Update citywide striping plan.
Vanessa? We're close on that.
Item C, understanding items.
Let's see, so for the citywide striping plan, we have engaged W-Trans to look at striping along the boulevard, striping along Foothill, and striping along Treadway. As kind of an after, I guess, not an afterthought, but after that was pretty much established and work had begun, we engaged with them to update the plans and look at restriping the segment at the Citrus Fair Drive intersection. And so they've provided this exhibit. We don't really have a layout in plan view, but there is an exhibit here in your packet and on the screen here showing the existing configuration and 2 redesign options. And so this is, if you imagine standing in the middle of the intersection of Citrus Fair Drive, looking north, the fairgrounds would be to your left. And so I don't know if you can zoom in a little bit, Mike, but on my end, those are a little hard to see. If you could zoom in on redesign 1 and 2. Thank you. And so here you see, in the top redesign number 1, you see the bike lane, the turn lane, a parking lane, a buffer, a 3.5-foot buffer striping, if you will. let's see, it looks like no turn lane, so that would be the straight through lane, the 12-foot wide straight through lane. And then you have the left turn lane, and then you have the drive-through lane going north. Down south in redesign 2, you just see another configuration. It's got a, same thing, sidewalk, parking. The bike lane is next to the parking. There is a turn lane or a straight lane. And if I remember correctly, I think that they recommended redesign number 2. David, do you recall which one their recommendation was?
Yeah, it was redesign number 2.
Which gives the turn lane to go up Citrus Fair. Is that what that turn number?
It is not a dedicated turn lane. It would be an optional through, straightaway, or turn.
And that gets rid of that
Pass-through lane.
pass-through lane.
Yeah,
It
so
does.
kind of way to look at this,
Right.
this car should be turned around the other way, but, so this side here is, Citrus, Fair, would be right here, so, you get Citrus Fair, this is kind of the fence.
Right.
Planter strip, sidewalk, there's not much of a planter strip, but you could do parking, bike lane with a buffer. And then have the single lane that allows for both pass straight throughs, southbound traffic or turning right onto Citrus Fair Drive.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of like Healdsburg Avenue
Right,
is.
yeah.
You can make that right-hand turn. You still have the turn lane. On the easterly side, right now, there are 2 lanes. One of which turns into the pass-through lane in front of Railroad Station and it merges. Or it turns into a right-hand turn lane. They're kind of recommending that if we go with this, it be consistent on the southbound lane, or excuse me, northbound lane on the east side, so that you have one drive lane with the buffer and bike lane, parking in the sidewalk. And just more of the options are, I think, on that northbound lane. How you'd like to have that, whether you want to eliminate that pass-through lane. Like we would be doing on the south side of the Citrus Fair intersection.
Totally agree with these, both 1 and 2, either one again.
Exactly. We've got the dedicated turn lane on the Citrus Fair.
Both of them are preventing the passing on the right.
Yep, right.
Which is become very, people are more concerned with what's going on here, somebody's pulling up here and.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Clearly marked parking on both sides.
Exactly.
And just again, for context, there's obviously this, we're looking at one intersection striping plan as part of the overall striping plan for the city. So this is the request of the mayor, to look specifically at the striping. This would be, depending on which option is recommended, this would be incorporated into the citywide striping plan.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, number 2.
Number 2, I'm on board with number 2 also. That's changing the system.
And this would eliminate both pass-through lanes, because there's this sort of passing on the right going in both directions. And so this eliminates both of those.
Perfect. I like it.
Makes it a safety
Mhm.
issue too.
Well, and the problem is like I've said before, anybody on that, especially that one going south from Citrus Fair. Guilty as charged, I've been going to get around a car there, and next thing you know, you look up and here's the passing guard, you're laying on the brakes because the kids are coming, so. It's a hazard, and I hate that lane.
Right, and I think with the addition of the healthcare facility, and they're gonna have the turn in for patients.
Yep.
It's going to become more critical that we eliminate that, because they're gonna have a lot of conflicts, potential conflicts there.
Good point. Yeah, it's
Okay. So we hear a clear consensus on
number
option
2.
two,
Yes.
The public.
including members of the public.
Right, let's move on to item D, water supply Potter Valley project update.
Okay, so there's, we're starting to see a fair amount of progress. Well, I don't know if we want to call it progress, but a fair amount of development of interest in what's referred to now as the Russian River Water Forum. This is put together, this effort was established through funding that was provided to Sonoma Water grant funding to try to develop a consensus around how to address the Potter Valley project. Last week on Wednesday, May 17th, there was a planning group meeting held in Ukiah. It went from about 10 o'clock to 3 p.m. I participated virtually and listened into the meeting where there was an overview provided of the project and you know, the diversions, and you know, there was also quite a bit of opportunity for members of the public to weigh in and identify their interests. Quite a bit of comments were provided by various interests in Mendocino County about eliminating both Scotts Dam and the Van Arsdale Dam, and basically eliminating all diversions. Of course, there's a number of interests from Sonoma County who spoke to how we could continue to provide some kind of diversion, whether it's with the dams or without, or it starts to get fairly complex in terms of what kind of systems are used to divert water if those dams are removed. This is all part of kind of the decommissioning effort. PG&E has indicated a really pretty aggressive schedule in terms of filing with PG&E to basically decommission the projects, and they are soliciting interested parties to see if there's an alternative group that would like to manage these systems. Of course, that comes with the associated liability of those systems and associated costs of managing the system. And so they're trying to, I think, build consensus around is there a group that can be formed that'd be willing to, you know, financially support management of this system, which was formerly managed by PG&E, really more as a power generation system, not a water conveyance system. So there's a lot more work that needs to be done. Clearly, there are two camps. One is eliminate the reservoirs, eliminate the diversion, and then there's a lot of interest in, you know, continuing the diversion. Particularly, there's farming interests in Potter Valley, but there's obviously water supply needs, farming interests in the Russian River. But there's also important environmental needs that have been identified too in the Russian River, because the water from the Eel River does contribute to flows in the Russian, which support fishery habitat. So there's a real balancing act that needs to occur with again a really diverse set of interests. There's a number of indigenous tribal interests that were represented that feel very strongly about, you know, the long-term viability of their populations and the need for that water. And so there's again just a lot of different interests at the table. It's a big table, a lot of different people.
This sounds like it's gonna be a continuing update.
At some point, I think there will be a discussion. Hasn't been formed yet, establishing a formal governance structure that would, you know, actually provide decisions or make decisions based on recommendations that are provided by a planning group through technical studies, technical analysis, and a lot of it's going to be contingent on PG&E and the decommissioning process with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So I'll continue to keep council apprised, get updates as much as I can on this development and participate and bring in the theory staffing to address critical issues that come up, which, you know, one will be, of course, water rights and protecting those water rights. So
David, a couple quick questions. When was that dam built? Was 1909 jumps at me for some reason? Is it that old? No,
Was it 20s, 1920s?
was it? I'm just wondering what that footprint looked like prior to the building of that dam. And if they were just to remove that dam and put it back to the way it was before they built it, what would the flows look just running naturally?
right, I don't, I mean, in terms of the dates, it looks like the Potter Valley project was built starting in 1908, where the Trans-Basin transfer occurred. The Scotts Dam, which created Lake Pillsbury, was built in 1922. The Coyote Valley Dam was.
None of the diversions would be there.
Yeah, so I think there are particularly some of the water interests that are kind of looking at the technical studies around what will the flows look like in that river with the dams removed, what that would mean.
And also, I had heard that the Governor Newsom was making some money available. He was putting more money at water and a few other things. I wonder if this is on his radar at all, the removal of that dam. Any state funding available, anything new? That's a question for later on, you know?
Yeah, right now it's kind of, DWR is the state funding agency that is funding this planning effort that it's much like the grant that we received. It's the same program that the water agency applied for, you know, under drought resilience to do this work, because they realize it's, you know, so critical to all of our interests, whether it's in Mendocino County or Sonoma County. So the state is you know, funding this collaborative effort.
Well, I just heard a couple of days ago that he was coming out with a new package of money.
Okay.
And water was one of the allowable uses of it, and then also, do we have any idea of how much water comes out of Big Sulphur Creek? Is there any way for us to get a determination on that?
Yeah, we probably need to work with our city engineer to identify how to calculate the volume of water based on the volumetric flow. You know, there's a lot of flow data, but you know, how do you take that, convert that flow data into volume to see, you know, actually how much water on a, you know, an annual basis and or you know, month by month it flows out of that. If there's any, we could check to see if there's any gauges or anything that
We do that.
do that. There is flow data. I just don't know if anybody's done the math to break it down.
It dries out.
Yeah.
It dries out at the end of the summer.
The whole creek does?
Yeah,
Every time I've gone up there, I've always seen water running.
Pools and water, probably.
like pools and stuff that come together. Normally around August.
I'd like to know though, just how much water, because our water rights extend to that Big Sulphur Creek as well. So when we take water out of the Russian River, I think it would be nice if we had an ace card in a sleeve that if we're accused of taking too much, no, now we're taking the Big Sulphur Creek water. We're not taking the Russian River water anymore.
That's where you're.
You know, and that's where it hit the river and we're capturing it downstream.
Good point.
So I just think that would be nice to know.
Yeah, it might be, I think this is an area where we might want to utilize some resources to more specifically identify the very point you're talking about, the water that flows in Big Sulphur and how that ties to our water rights, because it may be necessary actually to help perfect our water rights that we maintain on Big Sulphur. Kind of a hydro geology study, because, you know, our wells are considered groundwater under the influence of surface water. So even answering the question is to what percentage is it groundwater versus which percentage is surface water, and then of the surface water, which is if it's Russian River versus Big Sulphur, because they all kind of come in at that in an Oak Creek, all of that same, you know, we're right in that same location. It's an area where we need more study, more evaluation.
Well, that was it. That's what I have on that.
Again, this is just an update. There's gonna be a lot more to come on this.
I'm sure.
I was just off the top of my head, it was just caught something also from Newsom. He's got, I don't know how much funding is going towards it, but it seems like it would be a river thing. Is he just announced something about saving California's salmon, which to me means that's gonna be a lot of the rivers all the way from the border down, and I don't know how that funding would be attached to any type, it would be, you know, the health of the rivers or whatever, and how that would help us in water flows, or what type of funding is available for that, but it's really keying in on that right now too, and it's the 100-200 million dollar range for statewide, so.
Well, we definitely have that salmon that run upstream there in the river.
Great, any other questions on Potter Valley? Let's move on to Allen Asphalt Repair Project update.
We put it out to informal bid, we got the bids back, but we're currently finishing consulting and workup with FEMA. That involves some of that area in the January storm event project, so it's we still have work to do with FEMA to get the final numbers and to see what's applicable for their coverage.
Downtown sidewalk pavement conditions.
Yeah, we executed a contract with Regi Construction. I think Derek's working with Regi on construction scheduling to fix the 2 sidewalk segments, Derek. So
Yeah, they're gonna replace two sections of sidewalks, one here at the corner of First and South Cloverdale Boulevard, and the one at the corner of First and North Cloverdale Boulevard. They're gonna start, we hope, next Tuesday on those fixes, and they're gonna remove it, recompact and replace, and they'll take our city arborist is going to weigh in on how he wants the tree roots removed and the root barriers placed. And they'll reconcrete it, and it should be pretty straightforward. It should be done and by the end of next week, I hope.
Just to add to that, Derek, we do have I ordered additional root barriers. We do have someone in stock, but I ordered just some extra, just in case we need it. We should be ready to go.
So what we do have to just cut that big root out, put the
And
root
put our
in.
root barriers to keep it from to stop any future damage.
Will it kill the tree though?
Well, luckily the sycamore trees are very, they can take root pruning pretty aggressively.
Oh.
But what we're gonna try to do is try to cut the root strategically without hurting the tree. Gonna be our main priority. And then, of course, install a root barrier, but I think the trees are gonna be okay. We'll just have to see. Each tree is different, each root is different. And so, now those trees, if there's anything you can do to kill us.
I
But
wish we would have put those root barriers in when we did the boulevard.
yeah, unfortunately, it didn't look like they
I didn't even know
Very
they were
works.
found.
Which can be didn't care.
did. Root barriers.
Let's throw it in there. For street Crockett Bridge pedestrian improvement.
I don't give any updates on that. I don't have any.
yeah, it's a little update. So there is a ceremony planned by Supervisor Gore on May 31st. Not going to be necessarily official ribbon cutting, but the Sonoma County Department of Infrastructure, formerly the Public Works Department, has awarded the bid to a contractor, and they are expected to begin work on the project this summer. I think they have an anticipated completion date of late fall. Maybe if, with depending on weather conditions, I'm sure. But it's pretty exciting. This project's been in the works for a number of years, and it's slated to begin. So I think at this point, the county's probably just working on getting all the bonds and insurance in place, and hopefully we'll get a official start date when the project begins by the county director.
Is that the ceremony with Gore on the 31st?
Yes.
He's gonna be a busy guy that day.
What's he doing besides the bridge?
Well, he wants to start out the day visiting the what's called the Emergency Resiliency Center at the Smart Station. This is the blue building. That's he originally wanted to start at the train station, but he actually wants to meet there. The county executed a lease with Department of Emergency Management to use that as that space as a place to position supplies for emergencies. And also it'll have the CERT trailers there. Following that, he will visit the new radio tower that was installed by the county. We're currently coordinating with and collaborating with the county on getting our police radio towers up there. It's gonna have emergency backup power. It's got solar power. It's gonna be a much more robust site for communications. He also wants to visit Preston, the proposed county park in Preston, followed by talking about the possibility of expanding Cloverdale River Park, primarily on the east side of the river. County Parks has been working on either negotiating easements or possible acquisition of property both north and south of the bridge, realizing that historically that's been a very popular pedestrian, or access point by the community. So kind of improve that as park space.
Be nice to be able to get that if so many people are using their upgrade is to attach the rangers to the maintenance on both sides of those and alleviate it from the city. You know what I mean? If
Right.
possible.
Right, there's a lot more to come on that, I think, but I would imagine they'll be talking to us about it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Following that, there's the intent to have to meet at the Vets Hall for lunch. I did talk to Gene Marcinkowski today.
Oh, did you? Good.
He came in. And Jen Mendoza did follow up with him. And they want to visit the new healthcare facility. I guess because the deed hasn't technically won't be recorded for the open space property, they're gonna remove that from the tour.
Now, what healthcare district facility are they gonna,
The Alexander Valley,
the building or the empty lot?
well, it's empty lot now.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, they've got a picture up there now, I think.
Yeah.
A poster.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure where they wanted to be on that.
Well,
But
well, I got a call from Jenny about the vets building, and I referred her to Bob Cox or Gene Marcinkowski. She apparently contacted you, which is fine, just as long as somebody knew about it. And I think Nina is trying to get the lunch catered by Emerald.
oh, okay, great.
So hopefully council members will be joining him for lunch at least.
Right. I had, when she'd given me an itinerary agenda, does that in an email, I took it, put it in a PDF, and when I sent it to council, I copied Gene on it so that he had
Okay,
it.
good.
But she did call it.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So I'll be there for lunch. Good lunch. Good lunch, yeah. Emerald.
I'm trying to think of the one logistics of them going all this.
Yeah, well, I'm just wanting to meet for lunch. That's too much work. I'm not really part. Yeah. Well, just backing up some feedback on that river, extending it north and south of the bridge on the east side. At some point, I think there has to be a come to Jesus meeting on dredging that river to keep that channel right in the middle. Because that thing meanders back and forth, and any infrastructure that you're gonna do on the east side is gonna be washed away at some point. So, and I know he's a big proponent of dredging the middle of it like we used to.
So we get the water on our side.
Yeah, back where it belongs.
There's a big old island in the middle, which is there, 50
Yeah.
feet up in the air.
So,
I don't.
you might want to give him some feedback on that, and I'm sure he's thought about it, but, yeah. I mean, you go up here sometimes to that boat launch that they did on the north side, and there's no water, so. There's on the other side. Yeah.
All right, anything else on that? Okay. Cost estimates for pedestrian and bike safety, Asti Road between Citrus Fair and First Street.
This is just staying, we really haven't done more work on this. We developed, actually, our city engineer developed pretty detailed cost estimates, and we'll continue to look at opportunities for grant funding.
And the same goes for the safe pedestrian pathway, Cherry Creek.
That's correct.
Okay, item J, update Department of Water Resources for citywide drought relief water systems project implementation.
Yeah, so we have been coordinating with our team at PG&E and their contractor Centrica, which also has a sub called EnviroCore on the implementation of our drought relief water system project. Our main focus right now is on the smart meter project. And I don't know if you have it handy, city clerk or Vanessa, if we can hit our website, do a share screen on our website. It was on the senior staff agenda, the link. The new smart meter. There we go.
Let's look at the cool.
Yeah, you just hit it.
I just want to be like to see, get it from here.
So staff has been working, of course, all the logistics of replacing 3,300 meters across the city. One of the elements is just been trying to ensure that we are providing the requisite information to our residents and our utility customers. We've updated our website, providing an overview. We'll include a item in the weekly newsletter this week, pointing to this webpage. Included on the webpage is both a fact sheet, which provides more detail and overview of the proposed meter replacement project. But it also, we have what's called the FAQs. So, frequently asked questions. So it gives customers the opportunity to review questions and answers about the proposed project. So that's been a real focus. And I know our public works director has been working on all the logistics of getting meters delivered to the courtyard, getting them stored, going through ad nauseum the installation process. Correspondingly, our finance team has been working on the utility billing system because there's an upgrade there. It'll be again, there'll be a portal for customers to sign up and log into that will help them monitor and track their water usage. So that'll be part of the utility billing side of this effort, would be giving customers access to their usage data, which part of the intent of this system was to give customers, not real time, but near real time, that they get, I think the interval is gonna be like 15 minutes. Where the water usage data updates in the cloud, so the customers can access that data or their water usage. There will also be some components where there's additional water, more water being used than normal. It could send leak notices to customers, indicating that they may have a leak. So the high water usage, so that'll give customers more access to information that enable them to determine if they do have a leak in their water system, and address some concerns we've heard from residents. So a lot of work on this project. I know our city engineer is also working on the other elements, which include getting a scope of work for the SCADA system. And I don't know, Vanessa, is there anything else you want to share about the work on our grant project?
Let's see, I was on the phone with ArcSign earlier this morning, and they're visiting the plant and the remote sites in the next couple of days. I do anticipate getting a proposal from them. In all likelihood, it will be the June 28th council meeting. So that at least is moving forward. So it's ArcSign would be the design build consultant there, and they've expressed no concern with the timeline. They think we have plenty of time. And so that's good news, but we are moving along.
How's our overall timeline with the grant?
I think we're in good shape. I think our grant was 3 years. We had a 3-year timeline, and we're still within year 1, and we fully anticipate being able to deliver. The most significant project is going to be the water meter project, I think, but the SCADA work is a lot of that's going to be design work, so kind of on the computer. As of right now, I don't see any big concerns about the timeline. I think we'll be able to meet it.
All right, 6 acres, mutual water company pre-annexation.
Yeah, so that the pre-zoning is coming to council tomorrow night. We hold monthly meetings with the whole team. There's quite a group of folks that participate in the planning process around 6 acres and South Cloverdale Water Company. They're in addition to the pre-zoning for 6 acres, we're currently coordinating preparation of a final annexation agreement that we will, subsequent to the pre-zoning, bring back to council. That would spell out all the terms and conditions of formal annexation. So we'll have pre-zoning, we'll have the annexation agreement ultimately before council. Once all that's done, it will go to LAFCO for formal consideration. The state has been financing the design work for improving both the water system and the sanitary sewer system. I think they're at about 60% design level for that work. It hasn't been formally released yet for our review. The engineering firm that's working on is GHD. So we anticipate having the opportunity to review that design work once it's released, giving our feedback. Vanessa's been very good at participating in the meetings and providing kind of high-level engineering, comments. Our staff has been responding to data needs and requests and participating in these meetings. Concurrently, South Cloverdale is also moving forward. They're doing an evaluation of both, again, sewer and water improvement. It's a much larger area. Pre-annexation agreement has been drafted that kind of follows the form that was approved by council for 6 acres. Though there's some complexities because parts of that area is already in the city. So it's not subject to annexation, it's just a matter of getting improvements that are necessary to connect to our water or sewer system. So a lot of work there. Again, we take these monthly calls and we review, get status updates, and what I'll forward out an update to council, give some kind of a comprehensive overview of this whole project. And Vice Chair, I'm happy to walk you through that in more detail, but that's just a high level update. There's quite a bit of progress that's been made incrementally on getting the design work done. So that's probably the most outstanding update at this point.
Just two questions, David. What is the council approving tomorrow night? What action?
So the action before council tomorrow night is really pre-zoning.
That's it?
Yeah,
Okay.
which is a necessary action that needs to occur before or prior to annexation.
Okay.
It is designated by the general plan map, but there's no, right now, it's not zoned accordingly. So the pre-zoning is a prerequisite for annexation.
So it'll more or less be a formality.
Well, it doesn't have to be. It's a discretionary decision by council whether to support the pre-zoning. But it is necessary to do that in order to support its ultimate annexation.
And when will the annexation come forward?
So once of course, the pre-zoning tomorrow night is just the first reading of the ordinance. So it's got to come back for second reading, which I presume would be the first meeting in June, if not the second. The ordinance becomes effective 30 days later. During that time, we want to finalize the annexation agreement and bring that forward. I think the other piece to it is there's a formal application required to be submitted to LAFCO. Our staff has been leading up that effort, but there are some technical maps and exhibits that are required for the annexation application that we've asked the consulting engineer GHD to prepare and provide for us. Because of this, the process of how the state funds these projects, they have a request in to get approved, scope changes to get approved through what's called the Division of Financial Assistance, to be able to prepare the requisite maps that will have to go along with the annexation application. It's been taking quite a while. The other alternative is we do it ourselves, but we're not getting reimbursed for this effort. I shouldn't say that, we're not getting funded for this effort at this point, so we're hesitant to pay for that expense and put that burden on the firm that's getting paid to do the work.
Well, we've been working on this 6-7 years now, I think, and there's always rumblings out there in the community about what's taking so long. And I get it, it's not us, it's all the rest of the agencies that we're relying on, so.
Well, after tomorrow's action, I think the last action by the council will just be accepting the full annexation agreement.
So it should be done sometime 2023, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, we still have to deal with the county.
Yeah. With LAFCO.
And the state, I mean, ultimately, the state of California puts the final seal of approval on any annexation. And there's some additional boundary modification maps that are fairly technical to prepare.
Well, I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is just to let you guys know that plans on B. The water district is planning on having quite a few people there. And I know they're concerned on how long it's taking. So I think we just need to lay out the process of what still has to be done and who still has to approve it. So just FYI.
Yeah, there's actually South Cloverdale Water Company is planning a public outreach meeting. I think it's June 7th or June June 8th at the Veterans Hall.
Uh-huh.
This is similar to the public outreach meeting that was conducted for 6 acres. But this one will be for South Cloverdale. One of the discussion points will be the requirement that the residents connect to the city's sewer system. Once, assuming it's extended and constructed.
Do they have any wells there on South Florida? South Cloverdale Water District?
I believe they do.
Once again, we want to keep those.
That's good. I know we've made that clear in 6 acres, and we can certainly make that clear with South Florida.
That was fine.
We
But
did
just a heads
get,
up.
we did get a bit of good information this morning, and I can't remember which annexation it is. They kind of blur together after a little while, but of the wells and the transmission infrastructure into the area next to the city at this point. They were concerned that there was a leak identified in the transmission main going under the freeway. And so they've gone through a study, a grant-funded study. They installed a valve. Long story short, there is not a leak. The leak is further into the system. And so the well and the transmission main are largely intact. And so that is good news, because I'm moving forward that we would like to keep that infrastructure.
Thank you, Vanessa.
No further updates. Basketball courts.
Oh,
We don't know how that's.
yeah, no, that thing was great. So that's positive. Yeah, we gave out over 123 basketballs to the kids. They ate 12 pizzas. We ate 12 pizzas. Yeah, second to myself there, they had my share. And no, overall, it was great. We had a good turnout. We had so many kids there. We had a lot of support from the police department, fire department, city council, city management. So it was great.
Yeah.
That was the happiest thing for me was when I saw the kids play basketball there, including one of my kids. Playing there one-on-one, so that was good. And then we played a game ourselves, so it was great.
I think she burned Kevin.
Yeah, you don't want to put it in. My daughter, I just mentioned that a few times. Yeah, so that was great.
Rematch.
Well, I just like to give out a big thanks to the city staff and Hector and everyone to put a hand in that. That was a lot of work. It took a lot of time, thanks to the weather. But it really turned out great. I was glad I was able to be there on Saturday and see what the courts look like. So it was a really good job.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Thanks for coming. It was great.
Brought fervor where it needed to be, or not fervor, but I mean, city up where it needed to be, those courts cost.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, you guys actually just got a text from Miguel and Javier. There's kids playing on it right now. So
Great, good.
And then we already went through the item N and moved it up to the top, so that's already done. And last one is update on the broadband funding for the CUPC upgrades.
Yeah, actually, I did just share, it was requested by Councilmember Bagby to put a discussion item on the planning and sustainability subcommittee, and I'll update the committee here on that item. And Gus, you serve on that committee as well. It's come to our understanding that Supervisor Gore all the supervisors were allotted funding for broadband projects within their supervisorial district. And apparently, I haven't seen it formally, but that there's interest in identifying projects within each of the districts. And so that'll be something we'll be bringing to the subcommittee for consideration. Some of the alternatives include possible maybe public Wi-Fi, looking at downtown, extension of fiber maybe from Citrus Fair Drive to the school district. That again be an economic development project to support businesses who could connect to that fiber. I think that Exchange Bank had already done that, for example. And then there's also a tremendous interest at least from the city's perspective of getting broadband extended to the courtyard and our water treatment plant. We believe that's really critical for health and safety purposes. Obviously, we're going to be doing the SCADA work to help us manage our pump and transmission systems. So, you know, the ideal if we could get internet, reliable internet to our courtyard and our water treatment plant, because the current internet connection is very poor and unfortunately there's just not adequate infrastructure there to serve them. And there's multiple reasons why we would like to have broadband, besides enabling our staff to connect to our network, which they can't do currently without some going through some challenging processes, but to facilitate SCADA use. We'd like to see enhanced security at the courtyard with maybe security cameras that are connected to the internet. And just future, any public system that's relying on having good internet. So we would like to see that. But those are a range of alternatives. We don't know specifically how much funding available and how much might be allocated to us as part of what the supervisor is getting or maybe receiving. So more to come.
I know Exchange Bank, I think they did theirs last year in the spring, but they had the street dug up actually. Not in front of their building, but they had a crew on the intersection there of First Street and Cloverdale Boulevard. So I guess the wires run somewhere. I mean,
Yeah, it's fiber, and they generally run the fiber underground. Ultimately, they will connect, but Comcast, a lot of their systems are on utility poles, above ground, but Sonic uses AT&T backbone, and most of their systems and fiber traditionally is underground, so they run it in the public right of way.
so how would we actually get it down to the courtyard?
We would coordinate, so for instance, we either coordinate, really in my mind, there's two providers, Sonic and Comcast. Either one of them is going to want to recoup their capital costs of extending the infrastructure to those locations. And they have different mechanisms to do that. Generally, they're going to seek a long-term agreement with a rate structure that enables them to recoup their capital investment. Because if they're not going to just say, well, we'll sign you up for a monthly fee, which will never pay them back for doing that work. So the Comcast would look at probably doing some kind of overhead system, and what does that look like?
Yeah.
And when I had that conversation with their reps, I got the feeling that this was not something they were particularly interested in. But again, we can pursue that and get see what are some cost estimates for us to do that work, and they might leverage, if there's future development, it might provide them some reasons to want to extend that. Sonic, we're just in the process of setting up a meeting with them to, I got some preliminary estimates, but want to revisit with them and sit down and talk about what it would cost to extend fiber to work, particularly to our program.
Yeah, and if we did go with Comcast, that wouldn't affect our PEG money one way or the other, right?
No, this is really separate from PEG, because PEG is public
Residential.
education funding that's paid for by utility customers. We use that right now to fund the expenses for telestreaming our council meetings, our public education. This would be more for just ensuring we have connectivity for our public facilities.
Okay.
You can see I'm an advocate for making sure our city facilities are improved, but there are economic development benefits and possibly community benefits, like public Wi-Fi or even getting fiber in Boulevard.
Thank you.
All right, and then last item is F1. We've already gone over it and come up with the number 2 was the one we were gonna go with, Vanessa. On that. All right. Then any future agenda items?
We do, I have a picture Mike can bring it up of the red lights that were on the.
Oh, yes, I was gonna thank you for doing those.
Yeah.
I heard they flashing away.
Mike, you there?
Oh, he's dozing.
Hey, Mike. Anyone?
What did he say?
I didn't hear.
Just wake it up 1 minute.
Yeah. There we go, right home, like,
Yeah. Not somebody already put a road sale sign on.
Oh, sweet.
Somebody already.
Garage sale sign already posted on.
Oh.
That's perfect.
Yeah, those are the 2 new flashing lights at North and North Cloverdale Boulevard. And then we took that time while we were in that intersection. You can scroll down, Mike. We redid the stop bars.
Maybe not some
Yeah.
thermoplastic.
More thermal, and so we're gonna be going around and we're gonna kind of be making a list of streets that most likely are not gonna be coming up anytime soon on a reslurry or a repave, and then checking into stop bars and things like that, where the city crew can update those things, knowing that we're not gonna have to just pull them back out anytime soon.
And how's that gonna affect our striking program? I guess it would just take things off the list, right?
Right.
Good.
Yeah, we're trying to check things off the list.
Nice job.
That's it.
No other future agenda items? All right, and we are down to adjourning the meeting at 3:31.
Good.